Good evening. Welcome to episode 7, Sports and Nothing Else podcast. Kyle, how's it going?
It's going great. Just smashed a whole bunch of Mexican food and feeling fantastic. How you doing?
Good. It's a good day. Got to see our sister, Annie, and her husband, Austin, at the beach. I neglected to wear sunscreen, so that was a bad choice, but the rest of it was a good choice. It was a good day. So, yeah. And now Dad is calling me, but he's going to have to wait. So, sorry if you hear any buzzing on the podcast, but we're moving on. And it's going to be a great surprise to everyone. We're not starting the podcast with baseball because tomorrow, or when you're hearing this today, or maybe yesterday, the NFL draft, which is maybe the most exciting part of the NFL season. I love the draft. Kyle loves the draft. Kyle, when he plays video games, he rarely makes it through a season of anything, but he does love to draft and do free agency and trades. This is his thing. So, Kyle, you should be excited.
I am super excited, even though I don't follow college football that much, so my knowledge is fairly minimal, but I live for the transaction, and if you've ever watched me play video games, I start a rebuild about every single day.
Yeah, it's riveting stuff, folks, so you should be lining up to watch Kyle play video games.
I might just have to become a streamer on top of being a podcaster. Yeah. Just watch me do fantasy drafts over and over and over again.
Yeah, you do a lot of views, probably. So, we're going to have a bunch of props at the end that we like, but what are your thoughts since you just outed yourself as someone who doesn't watch college football?
Hey, I did not say I didn't watch, but I'm an Arizona college fan, so there's not a lot to watch. I mean, since Willie Tuatama and you might have to bleep me, but Big D Foles, there hasn't been much to root for. So I don't follow it super closely, although I have a lot of friends that went to Purdue and some friends that went to IU. So obviously we get into that a little bit. And everyone here is a Notre Dame fan, and I love to hate watch and watch people be upset when Notre Dame fails every single year at the end of the year.
Yeah. They're always overrated perpetually.
That one's are correct. So I was going through the top 10, and one of my favorite things about the draft is player comps, and I know player comps are incredibly stupid, but they're enjoyable to me, especially for someone that doesn't pay a lot of attention to college football. So, for example, probably the number 2 pick, Zach Wilson, I've not seen a single snap other than maybe the occasional highlight, and I still don't watch that much Sports Center anymore because who has time for that?
Not working people.
So Trevor Lawrence is obviously the number 1. Maybe a little Justin Herbert-ish. And I saw Andrew Luck as well, except I don't love the Luck comparisons. I don't think he has the cerebral Peyton Manning, Andrew Luck, go through all your reads, call your entire play once all the scripted plays are gone. I don't see that with him, but he's obviously the biggest talent in the draft. 2, Zach Wilson, probably going to the Jets. It seems pretty much done, 1 and 2. I saw Pat Mahomes, which I felt was a little bit generous, but Baker Mayfield makes a little bit of sense based on what I've read on him. If Mac Jones, and looking through my notes, I had him down as Max Jones. If he goes 3, I don't love that pick. It seems a little.
I have some thoughts about that in a minute, so go ahead.
But the one thing that did stick out to me with him and the bit of analysis that I've read is his whole family played tennis growing up. So a big part of obviously playing quarterback is moving around in the pocket, and you've got that fast twitch. Muscle memory there. So I think that could be beneficial, maybe a little Roethlisberger-esque, but again, I don't see it as being a star. I would take Fields at 3. He runs the 4.4. He's got the body of Dante Culpepper. I mean, McNairish.
The Dante Culpepper dance. Remember that one?
I do.
Yeah.
If I'm the Niners, that's who I'm probably picking. Or I'm just rolling with Jimmy Garoppolo, and I'm going to take Kyle Pitts in that spot because honestly,
set the world on fire with those 2
he's
tight ends.
The best weapon in the draft. If you have probably 2 of the best 5 tight ends in the league at that point, and if Garoppolo stays healthy, to me, Garoppolo is as good as the quarterbacks that you're going to take here. Trey Lance probably next. So I have to show a little love there. He went to North Dakota State. Obviously didn't really play last year, but they were in my conference of good old IPFW, my undergrad alma mater. So got to show some love there. I feel like he's the wild card of the draft. I mean, maybe a little Josh Allen-esque. He can run quite a bit. In high school, he played in a running style offense.
Look, he's going to be like one of the Joshes. He's going to be like Josh Allen, or he's going to be like Josh Freeman. And that's the problem, is that you don't really know which one. And he seems like a really good character guy and a guy that everybody's always kind of counted out and then has kind of crammed it on him.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm cheering for him, but I don't think teams know what to make of him at all.
Mm-hmm. And from here, my draft analysis goes downhill pretty quickly. There's 3 good wide receivers. There's 2 good cornerbacks. And outside of Jace Horn, however you say his name, being the son of Joe Horn, that's about all I got.
But all you got. Dad met Joe Horn's daughter once. So there's
Oh, really?
Yeah.
There we go. Whole family.
There you go. Shout out, Dad. All right, I have a couple of hot takes for you. Some of these are going to be warm. Trevor Lawrence is going to be good. I don't think anybody questions that. He left me a little cold the last couple college seasons. I don't think he's. I don't know. I'd rather have Justin Herbert than him, if we're being honest. I think he's got a great arm and great hair, which doesn't hurt. And he seems like a tremendous human being. But he's going to Jacksonville, and I think he's going to have to do a lot there to make things work. So here's my scorching hot take. I actually think Justin Fields is going to have the best career of all the guys in this draft. And I understand there's a lot of people that don't think that, but I don't really care what those people think. I watch that guy. He reminds me of Deshaun Watson, a guy that just went out against unbelievable competition and played out of his mind. He's not going to look as pretty as Trevor Lawrence throwing a deep ball. He's not going to look as pretty as Zach Wilson in his face. But I think he's going to be the best quarterback in the draft. And I think you can make your argument. I mean, look, Lawrence has to go 1. He's been the number 1 prospect for forever. The Jets are the Jets, so they're going to take Wilson, and that's going to be like taking Trubisky over Deshaun Watson. And then Trey Lance could be your Patrick Mahomes in this draft, or he could be terrible. But Mac Jones played with, if you just took their receiver set and just transferred them over to the NFL, you'd be like, oh, no, we have the best receivers in football. He always has the best offensive line in college football. Everything he had was set up for success. And I don't know. The thing is, Kyle Shanahan's system is awesome, and maybe he'll go over there and light it up anyways, but I don't think it's because he's the best quarterback in the draft. I think that's ridiculous, and it's quite, to me, it's preposterous. So I think Fields is going to go later than he should, because I think he should go to the Jets, and I think it's ridiculous, and I'm annoyed about it. And if I were a Jets fan, I would want to fight some people, but that's here nor there, because I'm not, and thank goodness. I'm a Colts fan. We just need an offensive lineman, and we actually need a quarterback because Carson Wentz is terrible. So I'm just going to keep going on and on if I don't stop now. But the point is this: I think Fields is awesome, and I don't know. You can fix some of his throwing stuff, but he throws a good ball, and he is built like an absolute house. 4.40, could run through you, can run around you. I don't know. I like him. That's my hottest take for the draft. But I think
and Trevor Lawrence looks like a pony, so there's that.
He does look exactly like a pony
with the first pick of the draft.
He looks like that. There's that YouTube video of the girl that taught herself to run like a pony. Seems like Trevor Lawrence could do that. I don't know. Anyhow, we're off now. I also I think it's really interesting that Chase, the wide receiver for LSU, who's probably the first wide receiver off the board, was their number 1, even when Justin Jefferson was there, when Justin Jefferson absolutely lit the NFL on fire with a pretty mediocre quarterback last year. So I think he's a really interesting guy and seems like the first receiver picked, and I'd be thrilled to take him if I were drafting anywhere from 5 on down, although what good is it to give him to Joe Burrow if you can't protect him? So maybe they should just draft a lineman at 5. That's my personal opinion. Their receivers are decent. Anyhow, go ahead.
Correct. But it is also a pretty shallow offensive line draft, especially, defensive ends as well. So what you could get with the 5th pick, you could probably get in the 2nd round as far as offensive
That's
line
true.
plays.
That's what I keep hearing. So I'm with you there. I was trying to think if there's anything else I wanted to say. even though you're not supposed to draft running backs early, I love the top 2 running backs, Etienne and Najee Harris. Those guys are going to be starters for, well, however long a running back lasts, 5 or 6 years. They're going to be really good. So someone's going to be happy with them. Devontae Smith's going to go sometime in the early first round, and he's either going to be a guy who you can get on the outside and he'll just annihilate defenses, or you're going to line him up in the slot and he's going to be hurt every year because he is built like me. And if I played in the NFL, I would be dead. So there you go.
I think that's probably a fair analysis.
Yeah. Soon, quickly dead. That's all.
So this poses a good question. So if you did play in the NFL, how many hits do you think it would take for you to actually be broken?
I mean, it depends who's delivering them, but not many. Like if I got hit by a safety going over the middle, just one. Like if a linebacker got me on a screen, or that's it. That would be it. Because I'm not a strong 160. I'm a pretty frail 160.
So I hurt my back the other day riding in a car, and I feel like if I got hit by a middle linebacker one time coming across the middle, or even as a running back, like starting 60 yards behind the line of scrimmage, like Barry Sanders used to do, just one, and I would just be broken in half, and I would never be the same, just a shell.
Ever. So yeah, I have a hard enough time running around the way it is. I can't be messing around with that. Yeah, I don't know how those guys like Frank Gore, who just have taken that beating for he's in his 15th season, I think.
In fairness, Frank Gore is a tank, and we're built like grasshoppers compared to that.
I know. I actually bought a nice Frank Gore card just today. Came in the mail. Fracture rookie. It's about a $250 card. Pretty nice card. Anyhow. All right. Any other thoughts on the draft before we get to our props?
Our props. So I did have one thing, and this is kind of stolen from the Russillo's show this week, but I found it to be really, really interesting. So he went back and looked at every quarterback taken in the first round since the 1998 Manning and Ryan Leaf draft. So there have been 55 total, and kind of the point of the segment was to describe how little anyone knows, whether it be an expert, Mel Kiper, or someone working in a front office, about who's actually going to be successful. So it basically turned out that of the 55 taken, about 50% of them were busts. And that's with basically what everyone was picking, and kind of how everything turned out career-wise. So your very best of the best since 1998, you've obviously got both Mannings, Donovan McNabb, Michael Vick, Dante Culpepper, Aaron Rodgers, Mahomes, Roethlisberger, Rivers, Lamar Jackson, Breeze, Matt Ryan, Andrew Luck, Deshaun Watson. But then you have all of the busts that were taken in the first round. You've got Ryan Leaf, Akili Smith, Tim Couch, Paxton Lynch, Jamarcus Russell, Brady Quinn, Jake Locker, Tua from last year, still to be determined, but he did not look like a great pick. Johnny Manziel, Josh Rosen, Dwayne Haskins, who evidently started over Joe Burrow at OSU. So who the heck knows? Tim Tebow, EJ Manuel, 50-year-old Brandon Whedon, Matt Leinart, Christian Ponder, and JP Lossman. And that list extends even further if you want to get kind of into mid-range guys like Vince Young, so on and so forth. Yep. So essentially the moral of the story is I don't know what I'm talking about with the top 5 quarterbacks this year, and I don't think anyone can claim to.
Nope. And part of it is fit. I mean, like someone like Dante Culpepper, who you had on the list of successes, the minute Dante Culpepper didn't have Randy Moss, he was no good. He just happened to get drafted onto a team with two Hall of Fame wide receivers and a good running back, and it was all set up for him to succeed. Dante Culpepper wasn't actually that good. And Akili Smith, maybe he wasn't that bad, but he got put on the Bengals, and at that point, this was a laughing stock of the NFL. He had no chance. Same thing with Derek Carr, who was the number 1 pick for the Texans. He was their first pick of their franchise, and they just proceeded to get absolutely killed for 2 seasons, and that was it. And we don't even know if he was good or not. And this is my problem with Trevor Lawrence, is I worry about him in Jacksonville because that is a terrible franchise, and we'll see. We'll see how he does. He does have some weapons. They added Marvin Jones Jr. I love Chark, and Schoenfeld from last year. He'll be a second-year player. Good player. Anyhow, but you're right. It's a crapshoot. So I'm going to yell and scream about Justin Fields, and then it's 50% chance I'm wrong. That's all.
That's all I got.
Patrick Mahomes had a losing record in college, a losing record, and he's the best quarterback I've ever seen in my life.
Well, a lot of it comes down to basically who your mentor quarterback is. I mean, if for instance Fields goes to the Patriots somehow, if they trade up, maybe swap with the Lions or something along those lines, or not the Lions, but someone in the top eight or nine, that would work. That's going to be your perfect mentor in Cam Newton. By all accounts, fantastic teammate.
Into the ground.
But still has been a fantastic quarterback throughout his career. Is definitely nearing the end. The light is at the end of the tunnel.
I saw an SI cover the other day, right before that 11 draft, where they were trying to figure out who was going to be the first quarterback, him, Jake Locker, or Blaine Gabbert. And that's all you need to know about the NFL draft.
Boy, those were some rough Titans years with Locker.
I mean, that year in the first round, it was Newton, and then after that, I mean, there were some great defensive players. It was Von Miller and guys like that, J.J. Watt. But Christian Ponder, Gabbert, Locker all went in the first round that year. That's a tough draft. And Kaepernick, actually, who you wouldn't call a bust, but we'll stay away from that one. All right. Give me a prop that you like.
All right. And I kind of went value here. I don't really know that a lot of these are actually going to happen, but a lot of the first round, or at least obviously the first two picks, are pretty much decided. So value at the third pick. I like Lance at plus 300, Fields at plus 500. And if they really go outside of the box, Kyle Pitts at plus 3,300.
All right. So that's the third pick.
49ers.
Be really interesting to see who they pick, because I think whoever they pick is going to succeed in their system. I saw an interesting stat today. Highest yards per attempt in the NFL since 2017. Jimmy Garoppolo. 8th highest. Nick Mullins. Niners guys. 30th. CJ Beathard, who I watched at Iowa because I'm an Iowa fan, and he was not good at Iowa. And he's still halfway up the list. So Shanahan knows what he's doing with quarterbacks. Anyhow, all right, I'm going to give you one of mine. I have Justin Fields over pick 7.5 plus 100. I have that on here because I'm going to lose my mind when it happens, because it's stupid and the teams are being stupid. But I think it's going to happen. I think he's probably the 9th pick or the 8th pick to Carolina, who has Sam Darnold, which is not something you should be excited about.
No.
All right.
Speaking of, so my next two were actually about Denver, and then Denver traded for Teddy Bridgewater today.
Okay, it doesn't matter.
6th round pick. Now, they may still take a quarterback, but I could see Fields dropping to them, or Lance at plus 600, both of them.
Lance is actually plus 900 to be drafted by the Broncos. Maybe that's because of that trade. I have that as one of my props. That's one of mine. Trey Lance to Denver plus 900.
There we go. And I did have the exact same one that you had with Fields, so over 7.5.
Just seems like it's going to happen.
If he falls, there's too many teams that don't actually need a quarterback in those slots. So if he goes outside the top 3, I could definitely see him dropping to 8 or 9. You want to do another one?
I'll give you one.
All right.
I think that Najee Harris is going under 24.5. That one I stole straight from the Bill Simmons podcast, because I agree.
And you just stole straight from me.
Well, yeah, deal with it. And I would like to parlay that with first running back drafted, Najee Harris, which I don't know if you're allowed to do, but FanDuel sponsor us and we'll talk about
it. Figure it out.
Yeah.
My next one, I've got wide receivers in the first round under 4.5. Again, I feel like it's a 3 wide receiver draft. Doesn't mean that there won't be 5 taken in the first round, but
no one really knows after the first 3 guys.
So,
yeah, could be the guy from Minnesota. Could be there's another guy, but Chase, Waddle, and Smith are all going in the top 15 or so, and then you just would have to hold on and hope no one reaches for a wide receiver, because I think the Boatman guy, I think that's his name, from Minnesota, will probably go in the first round, but who knows after that. So that's a good one. I think the Giants are going to take Jalen Waddle, so I have him as a Giants first pick at plus 650. I actually think that Miami is going to decide to draft. I think Pitts goes to Atlanta at 4, and then I think whoever out of Chase and Sewell, that basically I think the next 2 picks will be Chase and Sewell in some order, and then I think Waddle will end up falling to the Giants. That's my thought. You know how teams make a mistake and then they make more mistakes to try to prove that their mistake wasn't a mistake? This is what the Giants are going to do. They're going to draft more offensive guys because they want to prove that Daniel Jones is good. Except here's the problem. Daniel Jones sucks. He should be on your list of busts. He is no good. And they have a good defense, and they should be trying to just draft Justin Fields and admit they made a mistake and send Daniel Jones off into the wilderness somewhere because he's no good, where he can run straight, very fast, very far, and then fall on his face right before he gets where he wants to go.
It's one of the better highlights I've ever seen in my
Pretty
entire
good.
life.
He was cooking too.
He was, but he looked like he was like animated, like by someone that didn't know how real actual humans run.
It's true.
It's really weird.
The sound effect in the back.
So to kind of build on your last one, I have one that's the exact 3 through 5 order. So we've got Fields at 3, Pitts at 4, and Chase at 5. That is plus 1,100.
Yeah, it is, because Fields isn't going 3rd. But if Fields goes 3rd, I might become a 49ers fan just by proxy. Poor Kyle Shanahan has had 2 of the worst Super Bowl collapses I've ever seen. And I'd like for them to do well. Go ahead.
Well, and it's been like over and over and over again the last 2.5 weeks, basically saying Mac Jones at 3, Mac Jones at 3. But it's seemed to kind of lessen the last week or so. And a lot of the things that I've heard is that Fields is actually the pick for most of their front office. And that Shanahan is lightening up
people with eyes.
That as well. But
all right.
I mean, to me, Mac Jones is the 5th quarterback taken, and it's not even really that close.
Didn't you?
Yeah, I did. You know, he doesn't actually deserve me to say his name if he's actually going to go at 3. I just don't feel like
I wouldn't be able to believe it. And I was texting with my friend Josh Van Epps about this very thing. Josh, loyal fan of the podcast. And we agree. And we don't always agree on stuff because he is so in the bag for Tom Brady that I can't really get him to have common sense about certain things. This is, I'll save it for things I hate. Never mind. All right. My last one is that Carolina's first drafted player will be a quarterback. I don't think they're going to go into the season with just Sam Darnold. And I think they're going to have a pick of a good quarterback at 8. It's even possible they trade back a couple spots and still have a pick of a good quarterback if they need it. So plus 250, pretty good value. And that means they're destined to take a wide receiver or something. So, or Surtain, whatever. Who will probably be the first defensive back taken. All right, you got any more? Are we done with those?
None that I can speak intelligently about, so we're just going to be done with them.
All right, so make sure you text one of us about how wrong we were after you listen to this after the draft and realize that was a segment that you'll never get that time back. For me, you got a good laugh out of. So, all right, Kyle, you have a crow fact for us, I believe, for this week.
I do. We have infinite crow facts, and it's going to be a quick one, and I can send you the GIF of the actual video if you want to post it with the podcast. But okay. We did talk about a couple weeks ago that crows actually hold funerals, and there was a video of the crows holding a funeral, and the poor crow was dead on the street, and they were all just standing on the side, and they were doing that. I don't know if you've seen the South Park episode where they're like they do the "Come at me, bro" dance, where they've got the arms up in the air. The crows were all doing that. They're just holding their wings up, and they're just like watching this poor crow be dead on the road. But it turns out they had actually killed this crow. The crows had killed the crow. So crows actually hold trials just like a normal trial that we would hold. And they actually speak to each other. So like they have their own little language and they can actually like communicate back and forth. I mean, they recognize like names of cars and all sorts of things. And we'll have specific cause to like speak to different objects. So they hold trials and they have the death penalty. So to kill crows, you have to do something pretty heinous, it seems like, from what they've observed. And typically that is eating either the unborn eggs of a fellow crow or the hatchlings. So typically the penalty there is death by crow murder or by the murder of crows. And they do that by murder to death. Mm-hmm. Huh. So they literally just peck the crap out of a crow until it dies. And then they have a funeral and they do the "come at me" dance. And it's outrageous. So this sent me down a rabbit hole of
Sure,
birds
as it
killing
will.
other birds. And there was this video from New York City in the subway, and there were 3 pigeons, and these 2 pigeons were escorting this pigeon just towards the tracks, and they each had their beaks around his wings, so he couldn't actually fly away. And there's a train pulling up, and you can see the subway coming up in the distance. And right before it gets there, they simultaneously push this poor pigeon in the middle underneath the train, and they killed this pigeon.
Like House of Cards for pigeons.
Correct.
Yikes.
Bird crime. It's a real threat.
Yikes. All right. That is really something. You know, I was at the park yesterday with the girls, and a crow walked by us, and a lot of things flashed through my mind because of this podcast. I was wondering what he was thinking. I actually thought about feeding it, but then I would have gotten yelled at by someone sitting out there in the living room. So anyhow, all right, NBA stuff. NBA is getting good. We're like 10 games from the end of the season. Those Celtics are losing to the Thunder for no reason. There's a lot going on. Talk to me.
All right, so last week, I think I said I had the Sixers still. I am rethinking that for the East. I got to go Nets. I mean, the Nets are a game and a half up in the East, standings first East team to clinch, and they're doing all this without hardly any minutes with their big three actually playing together, which is a big shout out to the rest of their supporting cast. Even if you don't have the chemistry going in, you're going to be able to figure that out in the first 2 rounds because the bottom of the East is deplorable. If the Nets are healthy, I don't even think it's close breezing through the East. You can make all the arguments you want about their defense, but the East is not that good. Philly has not really impressed me all that much. And you have the same health questions with Embiid anyways. So I've got definitely the Nets in the East. They're plus 240 to come out of the East, which to me is
pretty good odds.
Fine odds because there's really no one else that you're really scared of. I mean, outside of the top 3, Nets, Sixers, Bucks, there is not a team that I feel like is actually a threat to come out of the East. I mean, the one sneaky pick that I kind of like would be how hot the Wizards are right now with how well Russell Westbrook is playing.
They're not coming out of the East.
I'm not saying coming out of the East, but to make a run as far as coming out of the
scare the Nets, you're saying, in round 1.
Correct. Maybe not. Daniel Gafford's been great since coming over from the
Bulls. What
kind
of run are you talking about?
Maybe win a game or 2.
Oh, so like an Orlando Magic type of run where they win the first game and then get swept out of the way.
But they are plus 30,000 to win the East. So if you want to take a really big flyer, the other team that I think is a long shot pick, at least to win maybe a playoff round or 2, would be the Hornets. The Hornets have been able to stay 500 without their best 2 players for the last basically 2 months. Hayward will be back right before the playoffs. LaMelo Ball is going to be back in a couple games, probably your rookie of the year. Hayward probably in the running for comeback player of the year. I mean, it's got to be probably Randall for most improved, but Hayward has been fantastic. The Hornets, I think, are going to at least win a playoff couple games and at least win in the play-in series. There's not a lot of excitement in the bottom of the East. I mean, the Heat are terrible. The Celtics have looked terrible. You can't trust the Knicks.
No.
I mean, at some
the
point,
Knicks are a
Randall's
regular
not going to
season
shoot.
team. That's the problem. They play super hard and they're a little bit deep and they got a lot of guards, but they're going to get in the playoffs and they're going to be in trouble. Now, if they play the Hawks, I think I'd probably pick them in the first round just because I don't believe in the Hawks still. But who made you money, by the way? They're pretty much firmly in the playoffs, so congrats to you.
They are firmly in, and actually better without Trae Young. 5-0 since he's gone out with Bogdanovich running the point.
Because he doesn't play winning basketball.
Correct.
So, and all you people on Twitter who think that Trae Young is as good as Luka, like, get out of here. Go away. It's ridiculous. Anyhow. All right. My thoughts are no one is healthy. It's a very weird season. I'm starting to feel like the Clippers are going to make the finals by default in the West, and it makes me sick to my stomach because I really don't like their players. But they're still healthy. They're actually playing together. Paul George looks great. I mean, playoff P, can't trust him. I mean, I don't know. I'd probably trust Kate to be alone in the house more than I trust Paul George in the playoffs. And that, if you know Kate, you know that's a strong thought because she's something else. But yeah, I don't know. I think the Clippers might come out of the West not because they're the best team, because the Lakers are the best team, but because their team is together. And I don't know. And it will make me really sad. I'll probably come on the podcast and cry, but that's okay.
So the Clippers are plus 500, and statistically, they're the best jump shooting team, I think, of all time.
Yeah.
And they're shooting over 40% from three as a team, I believe, or at least really, really close to it, which
Wild.
is absolutely
on a lot
insane.
of threes. A lot. They're not taking a few a game.
Mm-hmm. But this is a better team than last year, especially playoff-wise. You added Rondo, got rid of Lou Williams. Lou Williams has traditionally, in the last couple of years, been one of the worst playoff players of all time.
And Ibaka.
Of all time. Ibaka has been fine. The other guy that's big, addition by subtraction, is losing Harrell, who was a disaster in the playoffs last year. Replaced him with more Zubac minutes, and Zubac's actually been really, really good. Ibaka's been hurt for a while, and coming back is probably not going to get the starting job back with how good Ibaka has been.
You've just said his first and last name wrong.
I mean, say it correctly. Who's going to say it correctly? Get out of here.
Zubac. Zubac, for sure.
Okay. Either way, he's tall, white, foreign, and he's actually pretty good. And they got him for literally nothing. So the Lakers
could have him right now. Stupid. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So sneaky pick for the West. The Grizzlies are on fire, and Jaren Jackson Jr. is back. Not to actually come out of the West,
love Triple J.
They've been really, really good. Valanciunas has been sneaky good. They're really deep. You got Slow-Mo out there, Kyle Anderson.
Yeah,
this team has been playing really, really well, and they're plus 15,000 to come out of the West. So if you want to make some money and get really, really lucky, there you go.
What you meant to say is if you want to waste some money, the Grizzlies are not coming out of the West. Get out of here.
But again, sneaky pick to win a playoff round, maybe.
Yeah. I also
Go ahead.
Bought a nice Jaren Jackson Silver Prism rookie.
Very nice, and he scored 50 points in 2 games since coming off of injury.
He's a good player.
He's actually legit, and spreads the floor a lot more than obviously Valanciunas would. So it kind of changes their offense.
Yeah,
you don't really have to just focus on 1 or 2 guys anymore. The other observation from this past week in the NBA is how hilariously atrocious the Warriors are if Steph Curry doesn't go insane.
Oh my gosh!
The other night against the Mavs, they had 29 points in the first half.
Yeah, that was like 36-12 when I checked the score. I was like, oh, okay.
So their big 3 of established guys that know what they're doing that game. Draymond Green had 0 points, went 0 for 1 from 3, 0 for 1 for the game. Kevon Looney had 4 points, I think. And then you had Michael or Mark Mulder, whichever you want to call him, scoring 26 as their second leading scorer in a game that they just got destroyed, that they actually really needed against the –
Yeah, they did.
Well, I guess not really terribly. They're pretty much locked into the 10 seed, but –
no, not really. They're only like a game out of the 8 seed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The other observation I have is that the Blazers are falling apart, and I think they're going to lose in the play-in tournament.
They might, although Dame could get real hot for the play-in tournament. But
the problem is they relied on him so heavily with Nurkic out, with Collins out for like the 17th year in a row, with McCollum missing time. He's had to basically be that entire team, and I think he's kind of running out of gas. I mean, you see the same thing with Curry. Curry is not doing it every night like he did for basically a couple-week stretch. It just killed him.
Yeah, we do have to say the Lakers might really have lucked out. If they're a 5 or a 4, they're going to play Denver, and they're going to, let's say they get whole again. They'll roll through them. And then who you couldn't be happier with playing the Jazz in the second round. Lakers are just a better version of the Jazz.
Mm-hmm.
So they pound them. And then they get a really worn down Phoenix or LA, who probably will have been in a war against each other. I don't know. Maybe, I don't know. I think it's one of the LA teams. I think that's your conference finals. And then we'll see. And it would give me no greater joy than to watch Paul George wilt under the pressure. Self-named playoff P.
So the one theory behind the Lakers pick is that both AD and LeBron could have been playing a week or 2 ago, and they're fine with being in the 4 or 5 or even potentially the 6 seed.
Yeah.
And there's absolutely no reason to rush them back with how deep they went, obviously, in winning the NBA Finals last year, how much longer they played than a lot of other guys, how many more minutes they put on. So why rush them back if they're – I mean, you're seeing Kuzma blossom. You're seeing Schroeder play really well. I mean, you're getting good minutes out of guys. I mean, Caruso. Drummond is getting his feel of kind of where he belongs in this team, and he is essentially a better Dwight Howard, not by much, but he's still pretty good minutes from what they had
Also
last
not
year.
obnoxious like Dwight Howard. Jeez Louise.
He also can't shoot free throws, and he finishes inside the rim
Howard.
as like one of the worst centers in the entire league.
Well, they just need him to rim run. That's it. Catch some lobs, grab some rebounds. They'll be fine. But we'll see. Listen, you already know I love LeBron, so he tweeted something he shouldn't have this week, but that's here nor there. We're going to jump off that too. All right. Any more NBA before we move on? I'm excited for the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
And I could care less about the rest of the regular season.
And you can hate on the play-in tournament all you want, but I think it's
it's great.
Exciting.
Can't wait. Cannot wait for it.
I love it. If you don't like it, don't watch it. Don't talk to me about it.
Yeah, whatever. Comment in our comments, and then we'll delete it. All right. Things we hate. You got anything for me this week?
Yeah, I'm going to be really, really quick.
All right, go ahead.
All right. I don't think I'm overly controversial here. And this happened to me today, and I actually almost had a stroke. So it's raining here. It's very blustery. It's not a great day today. And we're driving to get Picante, and I'm driving Amanda's car, which I don't do very often. I don't think I've ever done in the rain. And I've got the wipers on minimum. And I'm driving down the road, and all of a sudden they're like, what is happening? I literally can't see out of the front of the car. Turns out her wipers just automatically adjust on what they think is the optimal speed based on the weather that they're detecting out of some jank detector somewhere in the front of the car. So I'm seeing perfectly well. It's just drizzling. It's not even a big deal. And if I need to clear off my windshield, I'll just turn the wipers on real quick. And then I turn them on and turn them off, and it's the absolute worst. And I couldn't see not because of the water, but because the wipers were going so fast. And I'm just furious and about to just drive the car into a ditch. And anyways, so unnecessary technology, I'm going with. That's the things that I hate. And I probably sound old there.
Well, sometimes it is unnecessary. Or the new van that we bought, Honda Odyssey, which we love. It beeps at you about everything. It beeps and beeps and beeps and beeps. It beeps if like a bird flies by the car. Beep, 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 beep. It's ridiculous. Anyhow, that's not the thing I hate though. The thing I hate, this is going to be very specific. But we were talking about Tom Brady earlier, and this popped into my head. I didn't really have a thing we hated for this week yet. I went to school in Michigan at Spring Arbor University, which I loved, by the way. And many of the people that watch this podcast are from Spring Arbor University. Yeah, well, I hate that thing too. They're like, oh, I'm from here. I'm from here. I'm from here. I don't know basic things. Anyhow, I'm going to get in trouble. Detroit Lions have been so bad for so long that most of the people that I went to school with just decided that they would just start cheering for the Patriots because of Tom Brady, who wasn't even that good at Michigan, and then felt that they could then talk all kinds of trash about how great Tom Brady was to people like me who are a Colts fan or anyone else. The Lions are the worst. They might be the worst organization in sports. And I understand that that's soul crushing, but geez Louise, I can't with the Tom Brady stuff. You don't get to claim him as your own and also claim the Lions. Like, get out of here. I don't claim, George Kittle as like my Lord and Savior because he went to Iowa and now I cheer for the 49ers. Get out of here with that. That's all. That was just specifically directed at a few people like my good friend Josh Van Epps, who is going to come at me about that comment later. But it used to drive me crazy, and it still drives me crazy. Like people posting after the Super Bowl this year, the half Michigan, half Tampa Bay jersey of Tom Brady winning his 7th Super Bowl. I can't take it anymore. I can't. Go ahead. So, by the way, greatest moment of my life, maybe, besides marrying my wife, birth of my 3 kids, probably your and Annie's weddings too, and a few other things, was being with all Michigan Patriots fans at the Super Bowl when the Giants beat them the first time. It was a Super Bowl party. We were still in college, and I've never been happier at the misery of other people than I was that night. Anyhow, go ahead.
So 2 things. One, as an Arizona fan, I absolutely claim all 3 Gronkowskis, and they are my favorite. Number 2, a little known fact, and this is kind of for you, Josh. Jesse actually grew up as a partial Lions fan, so we used to collect Lions cards. Obviously, Barry Sanders was the influence.
Barry Sanders, my guy.
And I was a huge Joe Harrington fan for no reason at all. But I have binders of Just Lions cards, and they all suck. Like, none of them are worth any money at all because every player on those teams were horrendous. Other than Barry
Terrible.
Sanders. And then we also deserted the Lions, so I don't really know that we can really talk that much crap. But either way.
It's fair. You would have to bring that up. You know who else would have brought that up? Alex Smith, because he knows too much. He knows too much, Alex does. He brings this up to me a lot. All right, we're done with things we hate. See if we can get in more trouble. All right, you've got some major league points to make, and so do I. So,
ooh, I forgot all about those. I'm going to go really quick because we are kind of running a little long here.
We are.
All right, so I've got A through P, and they're all really quick with no analysis and no feedback. So we've got number one, your Indian. Yeah, but they're all quick. All right, okay. Your Indians lost to the worst team in baseball today, and I just wanted to point that out.
Yeah, the Twins, who they beat twice before. That's your team. Get out of here. Okay, go ahead.
So congratulations. So until today, they literally had the worst record in the major leagues.
Yeah.
Byron Buxton.
Awesome.
Probably going to win the MVP if he stays healthy. He went 5-5 today, has 8 home runs, leads the league in home runs, tied with Ryan McMahon and Reese Hoskins.
McMahon.
Whatever.
McMahon.
At this point, I'm just gonna mispronounce everything. So,
McMahon. McMahon. All right, go ahead.
Vlad Guerrero, you can talk about that because I haven't even seen highlights of it, but 3 home runs, holy smokes.
Absolute bombs last night.
Essentially arrived. He's hitting 351, 1.154 OPS. The Blue Jays are 11-11, about to get George Springer for the first time this year. He's coming back, so they actually may make a run on the Red Sox, so I really don't believe in it. I don't trust their pitching at all.
The Rays are going to win the division. Just wait. Go ahead.
All right. That kind of piggybacks onto my next point. AL is really not good. If you look at the standings, everyone on the top of the divisions, I don't trust at all. I mean, the Yankees bench looks horrendous. Their offense is not hitting, and their pitching was really overrated, which kind of brings me into the Royals, which is point F. I don't believe in the Royals at all. Their pitching, I think, is overachieving. Danny Duffy has always started hot and then ends up with a 5+ ERA. He's too small. He doesn't actually throw that hard by the end of the year. Their offense is middle of the road. They've been getting kind of lucky. I don't think the Royals are going to win the Central. I think it's pretty clear that the White Sox, once they're fully back and rolling, are going to win that division.
Pretty easily, I think.
Moving to the NL, and you jump in if you want to throw some stuff in here at any point. I'll do all of mine first, but the Dodgers and Padres look beatable, and I do have to throw in a caveat here. I have not watched them play yet. I've seen a little bit of highlights. The NL East sucks. There's not a single team over 500. It's a disaster. It's like teams are actively trying to lose in that division, which is weird because there's so much talent there.
And a lot of money spent. A lot from the top 3 teams.
To the Central, the Brewers' rotation is fantastic. Corbin Barnes, and Brandon Woodruff have been 2 of the best pitchers in baseball. Burns. It's just going to become my thing, is that I'm just going to butcher every single name. Next, we got how are the Giants winning, and it's pitching. Team ERA under 3.
We both locked them in as an under, and they're 15-9. Also, Posey and Longoria have been great.
Which, again, I don't think is sustainable. They're both old. Cueto is old.
Older than us.
The rotation is old. Their whole team is old. This is not going to last. I've got 3 Mets facts that I thought were hilarious. The Mets have 15 home runs as a team. The Twins hit 6 today against the Indians.
Great.
The Reds have 35. Hit for some power because this team has power, and it's outrageous that they're not hitting. They have 3 stolen bases on the year as a team.
So they can't run and they can't bop it.
Can't hit.
Great.
Now they're hitting for a fine average, and they actually have the fewest strikeouts in the entire league, but 3. The Padres have 32 as a team. That's an insane stretch. They have scored 57 runs while the Reds have scored 128. The Reds aren't good. I mean, the
Reds have given up a lot more runs, though.
That as well, but it's astounding how little they're hitting. For your Michigan fans, the Tigers as a team are hitting 208, 268 on base percentage.
That's a tough time.
That's unbelievably bad.
They have a lot of good hitters coming, though.
Yeah.
So, Riley Green, Torkelson, got some guys. So we'll see. And they're going to be bad again this year, so they'll draft high again.
All right, last 2. Padres have a 2.89 team ERA, and they're still only at 500, which is weird because that offense is good. The Giants have a 2.93 ERA. I already mentioned that. And your Angels are wasting Mike Trout again with a 5.22 team ERA. It's ridiculous.
It's bad. They're now wasting Ohtani, too, because he is absolutely raking but that team's not very good, and it makes me sad. And the A's still 15-9 ahead of the division. So a couple of things we mentioned on this podcast. By we, I mean I. That Clayton Kershaw was a good pick for a dark horse Cy Young. He has been, after a really bad start on opening day, unbelievable. 7 more shutout innings today. It's good to see him really rolling. Got his World Series. I think he's just kind of settling in. But the problem for that pick is that Jacob deGrom is like the best pitcher I've ever seen in my life. So he may just win it anyways. Fun fact, Jacob deGrom, who has basically given up, his ERA is under 2 for like the last 3 calendar years. There's only 5 games over 500 in that stretch. That's how bad his run support is. It's unreal. I was gonna say, like you said, I think the Red Sox I think that's smoke and mirrors. I don't think they win the division. I think it's the Rays actually, although the Yankees have an argument for it. I did bet on a bunch of these, by the way, at the start of the year. I bet the Rays to win the East. I bet the White Sox to win the Central. I bet the Angels to win the West, which is too bad. But yes, the National League is more fun, I think. Although, yeah, it's weird that the Dodgers are struggling, especially since they got Betts back, who hasn't been great. But yeah, there are some interesting guys at the top of the leaderboards of stuff like. But that's the last point I really wanted to make. Mike Trout, who we kind of get bored of his greatness, is hitting .431 still. And he has 6 homers and 7 doubles. And his OPS is 1.353. He has the highest OPS by over 100 points, I believe, now in the major leagues. He's got the highest slugging. He's got the highest on-base percentage. I mean, his on-base percentage is .538. This is like Barry Bonds steroid years type of stuff that he's doing. He's unbelievable. And so, yeah, he's still only 29 years old, which is mind-boggling. He'll be 30 soon. But he's the best. So if you're a baseball fan, you're lucky enough to live through the best player we've had since, I don't know, Willie Mays. So enjoy it. Even if you think baseball games are too long or whatever, tune in to Mike Trout. You should. And then after that, my main guy, Acuna, who homered again last night, made me happy. He's back and rolling again. And Tatis isn't hurt. He's still swinging it like crazy. So the exciting young guys are back, and that's exciting to me. That's all I got.
And you have 4 guys that are basically hitting 400 still, which is insane.
Yeah. Yerman Mercedes, the guy no one saw coming, is hitting .432 still for the White Sox. Unreal.
And then you've got Nick Matone. I don't even know who that is, hitting .393, and Nico Horner. I don't know who these people are. They're almost hitting 400.
A lot of those guys don't technically qualify for the batting title right now.
Not enough.
Jesse Winker does, though, at .397.
Yep.
And, yeah, obviously Acuna's come down a little bit, but he does have 8 homers still, even though he missed a couple games. And Mac Mahone also has 8 home runs.
Hey, I'm pronouncing it how I spelled it in my notes, so leave me alone.
Yeah, sure. So anyhow, it's been a really fun start of the baseball season. And I know baseball's not for everyone, but it is for us. And I've enjoyed it, except watching my team, who can't score, and Kyle's team, who is friggin' terrible.
Oh, the bullpen.
It's really so bad bullpen.
Bad.
I knew
if I saw Alex Colomé on the street, I would not ask for an autograph. I would try to tabletop him with whoever was close to me. That guy.
Yeah, it's pretty bad. Hey, do you want to know what Jacob deGrom's ERA is right now? It's .31. 0.31. You want to know what his record is? He started 4 games. He's 2-1. It makes sense, but poor guy can't get any run support to save his life. So, all right. Well, that's baseball talk. We love it. And our teams are bad, so we're going to use our MLB extra innings to just watch Acuna and Tatis. And we'll do miss Soto. Hope he gets back soon. All right, I'm just rambling because I'm very tired. Do you have any, you have a family fiasco to finish us out here?
Yeah, and I've got recommendations as well, and I'll be very
Well,
quick
yeah.
with both. All right, so family fiasco. This is my favorite memory of childhood, or at least one of them, growing up with wonderful siblings here. When we growing up, our house was on County Road 22. It's this big square house with like all these weird hiding places in it and all kinds of stuff. And
It
at
was.
one point, there was a house being built across the street, and the ground there is super clay heavy. Clayey is what I was going to say, but anyways, it made for like these perfect mudslides. So they had these big, huge piles of dirt in front. They were digging the foundation. So we went over there and it started raining, and all of a sudden it just became like a swamp of clay, and it was super cool. And we're sliding headfirst down and standing up, and literally all you see on my memory of this is looking over, and Jesse is standing there after sliding headfirst down this big pile of clay, which there could have been like rocks and jagged edges all over the place. Opens his eyes, and literally all you see is just eyeballs and just like this this monster made out of sand. It was really, really cool. So that was one of my better memories growing up. And then one other thing about that house, so later there were neighbors that they lived to the left from the road, and there were some girls from that he went to high school with apparently that had moved in there. So they decided it would be a really good idea to TP this house, and got caught, and I believe could have been charged with vandalism and had to clean it all
Or
up. Am I
could
remembering
have.
that correctly? So
Not exactly. I can tell that as part of my family fiasco.
was not just me that was the complete moron growing up. So congratulations on that.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I can tell that story real quick. That's actually a pretty good one for family fiasco. So yeah, we weren't living at the house next door anymore, but someone that we knew that my friend was dating, who he's actually now married to her. No, that's wrong. We'll get there. So he had broken up with this girl that he was dating. So we decided it would be a great, bright idea to go TP their house, right? Which is what we kind of did in Middlebury, Indiana, because there wasn't a lot to do, and we weren't like, none of us were going to the parties where we could get in trouble. So we did stupid stuff like that, or put fireworks in mailboxes, which in retrospect was immensely dumb. But anyhow, so I did not know that some of the people I went with decided to go a little heavy on the redecoration. And so they bought some eggs that they threw at the house and some fake blood they dumped on the cats. So just remarkably bad decisions. And then lit a firework off in the front yard as they left. The problem with this is that her friends were already there TPing her house when we got there. So they knew we were there. And so a few days later, I was woken up by Mom on a school morning, and she said, "You need to come upstairs and talk to a police officer at the house." So I'm going, "Oh, geez, what is this about?" And then I thought, "Oh, geez, I know what this is about." So I went up there. He said, "Look, you got to go over and apologize to this guy. He won't leave us alone. We understand that you've made some poor decisions, but it's not that big a deal. Go apologize. It'll be fine." So we go over there to apologize. There's like 5 or 6 of us, like ranging from people who could make some trouble, like Ken Grover, my friend, to Austin Hoffsummer, who literally like has never harmed anyone or anything in his life. It's like the kindest, best person I know. So anyhow, this guy just lights us up. I mean, for like 10 minutes, swearing up and down, mentions that we'll all be in prison within a couple of years. Like, it was like a scared straight thing, but like it was a group of good kids who just, did some dumb stuff. So anyhow, long story short, it's fine. And one of the people that was there TPing when we got there, Joel, ended up marrying Stacy, who's wonderful. And yeah, I think they just actually had another kid, if I'm not mistaken. So
I believe so.
Yeah, my people. Anyhow, so that's I was going to do with a different one, but that was a pretty good one for family fiasco. Oh boy, lots of interesting choices. So yeah, I was actually also going to say for family fiasco, you were talking about your favorite childhood memories. Kyle and I made a game called Basement Ball when we were younger.
Oh,
and we just played it for hours and hours down in our basement, because when you grow up in Indiana, you have to be indoors for like 8 months out of the year. So that was I would play that right now. Honestly, I would.
Oh, absolutely.
I'd get on a plane and get to Indiana and play right now. So anyhow, all right, you got a recommendation for us real fast? This is the longest podcast we've ever done by far, I think.
Yeah, it is. So I've got the TV and a movie. They'll be very quick, both sci-fi related. The first is a German science fiction show. It's pretty new. It was on Netflix. I think it's still on Netflix. It's called Dark. Um, it is one of the better shows that I have seen, and there's not really there's a little bit of language, and it's obviously, some adult themes, but it is basically following this German town after a child's disappearance. Has a little bit to do with time travel, and by that, the entire show is about time travel, and I won't ruin it anymore other than that. If you do watch it, there's 3 seasons, or maybe 4. Take notes on the characters and their relationship to each other, because it makes it really interesting if you can try to figure out what is going on as time progresses and jumps around, and it's fantastic. I really can't recommend it enough. There is a dubbed and English version if you're really lazy and don't want to read subtitles, or it is a million times better if you just watch the German version and read it in subtitles. And yes, it's really, really good. So I would recommend that very highly. It is intense though. Movie-wise, this is a piggyback on a show that I had recommended a couple weeks back, and I'm sure literally none of you have watched it, but if you have now gone through and watched Firefly, which is the best sci-fi show ever made. There was a movie that was made because the last season got canceled and there was never a firm ending. So the movie basically tied up all the knots. It's not perfect, but it's still a pretty good movie. And if you're wanting an ending, it does a pretty good job with that. It's kind of a space Western. It's pretty good. And if you like the show, you're going to love the movie.
All right. I'm going to go quick. Through 2 things we're watching currently that I love, and 1 thing that I love we're not watching currently. Hulu just dropped a bunch of Handmaid's Tale. It's the bleakest show I think I've ever watched in my life, but it is tremendously well done. Kind of in the same vein as Chernobyl that Kyle mentioned last week. They're not about nearly the same thing, but it's kind of like if you're going for a show with hope, you've come to the wrong place. But it's tremendously well acted and well done. So that's really good. We're also watching, on a very, very different note, Arrested Development for like the 10th time. And listen, Arrested Development, if you like comedies and things like that, you're a fan of The Office, Parks and Rec, things like that, you need to watch Arrested Development multiple times, probably. You can leave the Netflix seasons alone. Those weren't very good. But the regular stuff, it's so good. And then lastly, we're all TV shows for me this week. Peaky Blinders.
Ooh.
That show is a tour de force. It's pretty wild, but it's a phenomenal television series. It's about a family of gypsies, basically, that I don't even know how to describe it, in old England.
It's got like some Gangs of New York vibes, kind of.
It does, and it has some thick accents. I would suggest subtitles on for that. The main guy's name is I'm gonna forget.
He was the villain in the original
Batman. Is it like Taron Killian or something? Killian, I don't know.
Lines.
And it does have Tom Hardy in it too for a while, and he's got a wild accent too. It's really something to see. So that's it. We've gone long. Mm-hmm. We said we were going to go short. We went long. So thanks for watching, as always. We'll see. We're going to say we both put $500 on $100 each on our props. We'll see how much money we lost next week. We'll talk about that. So pick Justin Fields, you cowards. Pick him at 2. Anything else to add?
I've got nothing.
All right. Bye, everyone. By everyone, I mean Dad.